Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today to the City Council meeting, Tyler City Council meeting. If you would, please stand for the invocation and the pledge. Chris?
Yeah. Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you so much, Lord, for today and for the opportunity to serve you and to serve this wonderful city that you've so richly blessed. We ask you to be with each one of us and guide us and direct us with your wisdom and knowledge and understanding. We just thank you for those that have come to join us to serve the city and just lead us and guide us through your Son, Jesus Christ, and your Holy Spirit. In Christ's name I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You've all had an opportunity to review the minutes for the April 24, 2019 meeting. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Warren, second by Moore. Any discussion? Any changes? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Now we'll go downstairs for the awards. The greatest resource that the city has is its team, and we're excited to give service awards to three team members this morning that have a total of 95 years of service to the city. First will be Daryl Cook, police officer, Tyler Police Department, 25 years. Next, Kenneth Johnson Sr., Chief Treatment Plant Operator, 30 years of service. And last, Elaine Massenberger, Library Assistant, 40 years.
True. Right. Yeah.
Good morning, Heather.
Good morning,
Z1.
Council. This is an item to request the zoning change from C1 light commercial to planned unit residential. The applicant is planning to develop single-family homes. To the east, west, and north are zoned light commercial and is the location of a middle school and undeveloped lots. And to the south is planned unit residential and is developed with single-family homes. The future land use guide is mixed-use center in this area. This request is consistent with the guide. The applicant is proposing to develop 18 detached single-family homes at a density of just under 5 units per acre. The development will have access via a private street that intersects with Three Lakes Parkway, as you can see here on the screen. The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a 6-0 vote, recommended approval for the zone change. However, at this time, the applicant wants to table the request for 30 days. They stated that they wanted to work with city staff regarding the construction of Three Lakes Parkway. Of the 15 notices mailed, there were 0 returned in favor or in opposition to this request, and the Planning and Zoning recommends approval.
We voting just to delay it for 30 days, or we voting to approve it?
The applicant has requested for the item to be tabled for 30 days.
I'm concerned that 30 days would be a right amount of time, considering the issue with Three Lakes Parkway and the bridge that has to be built there. The councilman in that district isn't here today, but I have sat in on some of the meetings, and I know there is an issue with that. What is your thought about 30 days? I mean, is it going to come back up again?
I'm not sure that the item needs to be tabled in order to have those discussions about the construction of Three Lakes Parkway. I think that they want to have discussions with city about proportionality as it relates to this proposed development, and what type of responsibility the developer has to improving the portion of Three Lakes Parkway that is adjacent to this proposed development. I think that really is separate to zoning. However, if they may choose to change their mind about the zoning, they may want to keep it as C1 based on discussions. So I think that it's really up to the council if you think that this is an appropriate zoning for this area, for this request. You could choose to approve it, or you could choose to table it as the applicant has requested. But I don't see an issue with this zoning.
Is his access only going to be Three Lakes?
No, well, I mean, yes, they have access off of Three Lakes to a private drive.
And that's the only one?
That's the only one.
There has been an initial discussion in the relationship, and I think Heather talked a bit about the proportionality discussion for the connection of Three Lakes then to Old Noonday, because they're also doing the component that is over on Old Noonday connecting to a piece of their development, and then there's this piece, but there's nothing that requires then for the connection then the entire way. And so there has been, like I said, early discussions on perhaps participation between the developer, the city, and others on that piece right there. But that'll be a separate agreement at a different time.
Is the developer here or his representative?
I don't know if Mike Werner is in, or Priestner for that matter. I don't know if Mark is there.
I just don't think 30 days is enough time to solve the problem about proportionality. So in that light, I move to approve Z1.
Do I have a second?
I'm still a little kind of confused. The motion was to approve Z1, but I heard Ms. Heather saying they wanted to delay the approval
Yes,
of
sir.
Z1.
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's why we're discussing the motion. Were there any, I guess, protests from the citizens about delaying it for 30 days?
So
Excuse me, Councilman.
I just want you, can you continue discussion, but we do have a motion, and so if there's no second, if I've heard that, then we're moving, then the motion fails. Is that correct?
I'll withdraw
Well-
my motion until this discussion is finished. I thought everyone was finished.
And I guess, was there a big protest from the citizens about delaying this for 30 days? And if you delay it for 30 days, is there going to be any difference as from the builder's perspective, other than what you just explained?
There was no protest
Okay.
for this proposal for single family, because it's downzoning from light commercial to single family. And from the builder's perspective, I think that they're concerned about their responsibility as far as the construction of Three Lakes Parkway and looking at proportionality. I don't know that it could be resolved in 30 days. I think that they're trying to make sure that, you know, if they're unsuccessful in obtaining or achieving their goals, they want to keep the C1 light commercial in that event. So that's why they didn't want to go ahead and have this considered for approval today, so that they continue to work through those
Do
actions.
you foresee the proportionality being solved in 30 days?
I don't know that it can.
I'll take on that question, Councilman, if you don't mind. No, I think it's going to take longer than 30 days to come to agreement, because they've presented initial numbers, and we'll review those, and there will be back and forth, and I think you're kind of hitting the nail on the head. It will take longer than a 30-day period to get that, to then have the legal documentation put together. Then plus you also have the securitization of funds for, you know, future half cent or however best, as well as then just some of the other components and other partners, because we're not even talking about this just being the city and the developer that would be involved in this, as far as the full extension that we're talking about here. So I think the point you're bringing is very legitimate, in that it will take longer than 30 days. It probably will take several months.
So how long would you suggest we table it for, if we table it?
I think you could do an indefinite table. And then that way, that provides the surrounding properties the notice, the proper notice, whenever it does come back to council. And it doesn't allow it to come back and then have to be tabled again. And so
That's my concern. And will he be able to develop this can he develop it now without Three Lakes Parkway being put through?
no.
No, I don't know how far that road extends.
Well, they're proposing that the access is off of Three Lakes Parkway, so they wouldn't be able to develop.
And it hadn't been completed that far?
Correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we table Z1 indefinitely.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Warren, a second by Moore. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Heather, Z2.
This is a request to rezone from planned multifamily to planned office district. They are asking to develop a parking lot that is for the use of the CDC cardiology clinic off of Loop 323. To the north is zoned R1A single family and C2 general commercial, and are developed with single family homes as well as the clinic. To the east is developed as offices, and to the west and south is developed with single family homes. This request is consistent with the future land use guide that identifies this area as neighborhood commercial. The parking lot is proposed to provide additional parking spaces for the clinic, and there would be a type B buffer yard and a 6-foot tall wooden fence proposed between the subject property and the residential properties along the western edge of the property. There was opposition that stated they would prefer a security fencing, and that the applicant has provided, just to know that the applicant has provided a 6-foot tall wooden fence. Of the 21 notices mailed, 1 was returned in favor, 1 in opposition at a 3.5% protest, and the Planning and Zoning Commission recommends this by a 6-0 vote for the planned office development with the site plan.
Thank you. I do have one card, and it's Brad Terry, and he's here for questions only. Any comments would you like, Mr. Brad Terry? None? Okay. All right. Do I have a motion? Any discussion?
Move to approve Z2.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Warren and a second by Seta. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Z3.
This is a request for a home child daycare. All of the adjacent properties are zoned R2, two-family residential, and they're developed with single-family residential homes. The applicant is currently operating this daycare and has requested the special use permit to comply with the ordinance. A special use permit allows for a maximum of 6 children for a home daycare, in a residential district. The applicant is licensed with the state to operate the daycare, and the property has a play area and is protected by a 6-foot wooden fence. Of the 41 notices mailed, 2 were returned in favor and 0 in opposition, and the Planning and Zoning Commission by a 6-0 vote recommends approval of the SUP for a 3-year period of time.
Any questions further?
Move to accept Z3.
Second.
Got a motion by Moore and a second by Seta. Any further discussion or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
This is a request to rezone from agricultural to C1 light commercial to allow for retail uses. To the north is zoned PUR planned unit residential and is undeveloped. To the east is agricultural and is also undeveloped. And to the west is zoned light commercial as well as office, and it has a mixture of undeveloped land and offices. To the south is light industrial and general commercial, and it has a mixture of retail and industrial uses. The future land use guide would need to be amended from single-family medium-low density to neighborhood commercial for this request. The subject property, as you can see, is at the corner located at the intersection of 2 arterials, East Grande Boulevard and Paluxy Drive. The power line easement runs through this area to the north of the property, leaving a 300-foot buffer between the developable portion of the land and the residential properties that you can see to the north. The opposition has stated that they did not prefer commercial behind their property, and of the 11 notices that were mailed, 1 was returned in opposition, 0 in favor, and the Planning and Zoning Commission by a 6-0 vote recommends approval of the C1 light commercial request.
Property along along East Grande is, because it's a major arterial, most likely we're going to see more development and zoning change request in the first place, and the 300-foot buffer is quite a buffer.
Correct. And it does allow for a good transition, especially when you see the connection of the 2 arterials there at the intersection. And it's unlikely to be developed with homes at this location. So the C1 seems to be a good transition.
Any further questions? Comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Seta, second by Sellers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
This is a request to rezone from multifamily to adaptive reuse. They are operating a birthing center at this location off of 421 South Bonner. To the north is zoned for multifamily and general commercial and is the location of single-family homes and a bank. To the south and to the west is zoned for multifamily and is a mixture of undeveloped land as well as a single-family home. And then to the east is developed as offices. The request is consistent with the Tyler First Future Land Use Guide, which identifies this area as single-family, medium-low density. And the birthing center has been operating since 2013 and this zone change would bring the property into conformance with the Unified Development Code. There is no overnight stay provided at this facility, and of the 25 notices mailed, 1 was returned in favor, 0 in opposition, and the Planning and Zoning Commission by a 6-0 vote recommends for approval.
Okay. Any questions for Heather?
Move to
Comments?
approve Z5.
Second.
Got a motion by Warren and a second by Seta. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
This is a request to change the zoning from R1A single family to R1B single family. And this is for the construction of 5 detached single family homes. And all of the adjacent properties are zoned R1A single family and are developed with single family homes. This request is consistent with the Future Land Use Guide. The applicant plans to construct 5 detached single family homes. The request for R1B zoning would allow for the flexibility in the lot configuration and allow the houses to have larger footprints for the R1B, because the R1B zoning, residential zoning designation, has a generous setback as far as allowing for a 6-foot setback compared to the R1A 7.5-foot setback. So it gives them just a little bit more room to build a larger house on these lots. There was opposition, and they were concerned about more homes being built in the neighborhood. However, the existing zoning would allow for additional homes to be built in the neighborhood, but just not the same footprint. So that homes could be built on these lots regardless of the outcome of this zoning change. Of the 30 notices mailed, 0 returned in favor and 1 in opposition, and the Planning and Zoning Commission by a 5-0 vote recommends for approval.
Thank you, Heather. I do have one card from David Susia from the builder. He's available for questions. David, do you want to make any comments at all? No? Nope. Okay, as you come up, you'll state your name and address for the record.
Morning, Council. David Socia, 15128 County Road 2191 in White House. I'm available for any questions, but as Heather mentioned, this is currently zoned R1A. We're going to R1B simply to give the appearance of a larger home. So we're going to eat into the setbacks, the existing setbacks of 7.5 foot, just slightly, so that we can give an appearance of a larger home on this particular lot. If it stayed R1A, we would continue to build. We would just have to do a little skinnier footprint, a little more smaller home, which would probably still coincide with what's existing there now, but want to give the appearance of a larger single-family new construction home.
Question, sir.
Yes, sir.
What's going to be the average square footage of those homes?
We're going to range, it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage. We're going to range between 1,215 square feet to 1,265.
So the highest is 1265.
Yes, sir.
Any further questions?
I'm kind of familiar with the area.
Yeah.
And, either way, if you go R1A or R1B, it's still going to be 5 houses.
That's right.
And I think it's going to be positive for the neighborhood. I know there's one house down the street that looks awful.
Sure.
And this right here is going to do nothing but make this area better.
Mhm.
So I thank you for your efforts.
Hey, thank you.
Good. Any other comments? Entertain a motion.
Move to accept these 6.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Moore, a second by Sellers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, Ms. Heather.
Great.
01.
And our next item is for a renewal of our tax criteria, tax abatement criteria. The state law requires that the City of Tyler may not enter into tax abatement agreements unless the City Council has established guidelines and criteria governing the tax abatement agreements and a resolution stating that the city elects to participate in tax abatement. The Texas Property Tax Code provides that the guidelines and criteria for tax abatement are effective for 2 years, and now it's time to renew those criteria and readopt them. It is recommended that the City Council adopt the attached ordinance amending the Tyler City Code Chapter 2 to readopt the current guidelines with no changes and the criteria governing tax abatement in the City of Tyler.
Thank you, Heather. I'll make a quick comment. It is a great tool in the toolbox for economic development to attract new businesses and more primary jobs. So I'm excited to hear this. Thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Got a motion by Seth, a second by Warren. Any more discussion, questions? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Heather. Good morning, Lisa.
Sorry about that. As you know, we've been waiting for quite some time on an agreement from the Union Pacific Railroad Company for some work that needs to be done in conjunction with the Martin Luther King Boulevard Improvements Project. The city needs to install some sidewalks and lighting improvements through the railroad right-of-way, and we are not allowed to do any of that work until we get explicit approval from the railroad to enter into their right-of-way to do this work. In addition, we had asked them to replace the existing deteriorated crossing, and so this agreement also provides that they will do that work alongside our work. So they will be replacing the deteriorated wooden planks that make up the crossing with the newer concrete planks, which have a fairly significant lifespan. We anticipate that those concrete planks will last for about 50 years. So we did get the agreement. Generally, when the city is doing work within the right-of-way and the railroad is also doing work, the railroad typically asks the city to pay 100% of the cost for their improvements. However, in this case, because of how long it took for them to actually get this agreement put together and get it to us, they have agreed to pay 50% of the cost. So the total cost of their portion of the work, which is, again, replacing the deteriorated crossing, is $424,515. Again, they've agreed to pay 50% of the cost, leaving the other 50% to the city, which will be funded through the half-cent program. So we are requesting that the council authorize the city manager to sign the authorization and reimbursement agreement for the at-grade crossing on Martin Luther King Boulevard in the amount of $212,257.50.
So you're telling me typically for a railroad crossing that belongs to the railroad, if it's going to be replaced, typically it's at the cost of the city?
If we are the ones asking for the replacement.
Correct. We asked for this crossing to be replaced in conjunction with the MLK project. Since we were already going to be out there doing work, we thought it would be a good opportunity for that crossing to be replaced. So we requested that the railroad do that work.
They will do crossing replacements that they see for protection or for safety purposes as they go through and do their inspections. These are the old timber crossings, which are made for very as far as disruptive right across versus the concrete crossings that they continue to try to move towards and as they improve their crossings. And we want to see the concrete crossings versus, and so the old timber crossings removed. So this will be that improvement. And like I said, we were the ones that started the conversation. We asked for it. We've been the ones asking for this change to occur. So typically that cost would be on us then 100%. But as the city engineer explained, this one is because of just really the delays that they have put us through. They're making a gesture of taking on half of that cost.
Yes.
So if we have, I may be getting off topic. So if we have issues with crossings, whether it's at Lake Street or Fly Shoal or other areas of town, and we ask for them to repair those crossings because we asked for them to repair it?
Repair and replacement are two different things. So they may come in and repair by just whatever the repair work without actually ever taking out the crossing and changing out the surface material that the crossing is. So those repairs are done on their dime. But replacements, if we are the ones pushing the replacement, then it's not on their schedule for that replacement. That cost is on us.
Just to come in on that, thank you, Lisa. To kind of help you out, Brother Warren, the citizens have been asking for replacement for the past 10 years because I know I lived in that area. The city's been asking for replacement for the past 7 years. So hats off to Lisa and people that work with her and Union Pacific for agreeing to go ahead and resolve this issue. And it's just one part of those the issues that's going to help us to complete and develop Martin Luther King. Without the railroad crossing, to me, the work would just be in vain. So I certainly appreciate the city for going ahead with Lisa and the Hempstead sales tax for doing this. When you look at Union Pacific, they do what they want to do when they want to do it. We can't rush them because they're saying that's their railroad track. We've had a lot of citizens in the area complain about towing tires, everything else that you get from railroad crossing. So this is a positive, great thing for the district and especially for the crossing at MLK. With that said, I make a motion to accept M1.
Second?
Got a motion by Moore and a second by Sellers. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Lisa. Good morning, Jimmy.
Good morning, Mayor. Good, Mayor Pro Tem and Honorable Council. Good to see you again this morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Pipe Analysis LLC has been working with Tyler Water Utilities for several years, providing services such as evaluating best practices under the consent decree. Also, they are meticulous with experience and details with other Texas cities that are experiencing the same as Tyler Water Utilities. They've assisted Tyler Water Utilities with requests for proposals. They've also helped with evaluating consultants and contractors for compliance requirements for the consumer, for the consent decree. Before Mr. Newhouse comes and gives the presentation, I just want to say personally that Dr. Forbes has been a valuable resource for the city of Tyler in helping Tyler Water Utilities to navigate the EPA consent decree process and pipeline analysis, and Dr. Forbes brings innumerable experience with EPA and other regulatory agencies that has been valuable to the city of Tyler. Paul.
Good morning, Mayor, Pro Tem and Council.
Good morning.
Dr. Johnson did a good job introducing this, and Mr. Forbes is here if anybody has any questions during this presentation for him. Didn't mean to put you on the spot, but he's here. So again, he has been involved with us since we entered into our consent decree in April of 2017. So work order 1 that I referred to on this first slide was the initial work order, and we renewed it, and now we're fixing to renew it again for the third go around, for the third year. So some things to dig in a little deeper. What Dr. Johnson said, he's assessed all of our lift stations, he's assessed all of our force mains and air relief valves. He's helped develop a hydraulic model. We're through phases 1 and 2. Which have included the gravity mains in basins 8, 13, and 15, and the 10-inch and larger manholes throughout the entire system, and then the basin in 8 and 15 manholes, and he is currently continuing his assessment work for phase 3. We have inspected over 6,200 manholes, and we're on track to complete these in 5 years. Our gravity main lines, we've inspected over 1,390,000 lineal feet, and we're on track to complete those in 8 years. This is a 10-year consent decree, so we've got to have 2 years right at the end of that to complete the remedial work. He's helped, as Dr. Johnson said, develop our CMOM program. He continues to be a valuable resource in the implementation, in running any type of updates or ideas or proposed changes that we have, and then helping us put those together and submitting those to the EPA should we need to do so. The capacity construction costs, that's probably one of the bigger projects that we're fixing to embark on once we renew this contract. We've got our hydraulic model. It's got some predicted capacity constraints or potential capacity constraints, and there's a big dollar tied to those. So we're going to try to take that hydraulic model, monitor it 29 different sites, confirm actual field conditions, and we're going to try and whittle that number down substantially. Another part of that is dealing with I&I. He's put together an additional report for us that's going to help the discussion on the private side. How do we deal with all the I&I that's coming from private laterals that are outside of our system but are a major contributor to our I&I, to our contributions to overflows during rain events. So that's going to be a big part. KSA is a sub-consultant, just like LNV is in that work. So their fees and their work are part of this agreement with pipeline analysis, part of this $1 million that we are renewing each and every year. So with that, I'll pause a moment. You guys have any questions for this or about this?
This is a multi-year agreement that's renewable annually, correct?
That is right. So the first year was the detailed contract, and each year after that has just been an adjustment in the dates, an adjustment in maybe who the contact was. It used to be Kate Dietz, it's now myself, and then he has a few hourly rates that might change, but still that dollar figure every year is limited to $1 million. And we renewed this back in 18 in April, so now we're in June, so we have realized a little bit of some efficiency and some cost savings there, so we were able to extend that a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's a renewable contract, yes, sir.
So the goal is to be done, though, in 8 years?
The goal is to be done in 8 years. Those last 2 years, there might be a little bit of, there'll be a little bit of residual, and we haven't quite gotten to what we think that will be at those 2 years, but there will be a little bit of work just helping us as we tailor out. But you're right, the bulk of the assessment that he's been doing will have been done, but he will still be a valuable resource in, you know, as we continue to transition to some of this maintenance, some of this work that we need to do ourselves, and because we're going to have to continue to assess our system. We're going to have to continue to monitor it because, you know, we fix it. As soon as you fix it, it's going to start deteriorating, so we need to continue to monitor that. So that'll be part of what happens, as I foresee it, in the final 2 years of our consent decree.
Now then the data collected and then the work that's being done will actually decrease the infiltration into the system, which should increase capacity. Is that correct on the wastewater treatment plants?
That is correct.
Okay.
Anything you want to add to that?
That is the goal of without getting too far off. If we just open the pipe, so to speak, and just put all the capacity in the system and got all that I&I to the wastewater treatment plants, well, now they're over capacity. Now we've got to start building, expanding, re-permitting, and that would really get expensive. So we're part of our potential capacity constraint work that we're doing here with this second phase of the hydraulic model is to try and figure out the balance of how do we deal with those capacity issues.
I heard you say something about an 8-year program. Now, this was this 10-year consent decree.
Yes, sir.
And you're saying you're going to finish it within 8 years?
No, the assessment portion that Pipeline Analysis is doing, it's on track to finish in 8 years.
Okay.
We still have to complete that work. We've got an additional 2 years of when we're through with our assessment to complete that. Actually 3 years, but so that last assessment is going to be our smallest phase so that we can complete it in 2 years.
Okay.
So are we on track?
We are on track to assess, and we are on track to complete the remedial work as we see it at this point. And the capacity constraint, again, we're looking at a big dollar figure, a big potential there that we're trying to whittle that down. Now we're going to finish that well before, you know, the 8-year mark. We'll have time to do it. It's just how much money is it going to cost us?
Any further comments? Questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve M2.
Second.
Okay, I've got a motion by Warren and a second by Seta. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, as you know, the City of Tyler's consent decree outlines compliance requirements. There are 7 compliance requirements. Capacity management, operation, and maintenance, or the CMOM, is one. Updating the hydraulic model for wastewater is another. Paul just touched on a little bit. Number 3, hydraulic capacity assessment and remedial measures. Condition assessment and remedial measures. Number 5 is lift stations and capacity evaluations and improvement. Number 6 is force main assessments and remedial measures. And finally, number 7 is to eliminate constructed sanitary sewer overflow locations. On page 42 of the City of Tyler's consent decree, the City of Tyler shall evaluate the conditions of manholes utilizing a rating system identified in Appendix E. In Appendix E, under the section Manhole Condition Assessment and Remediation Program, under this program, a manhole inspection schedule is to be made. Manhole inspections are to be completed. Condition assessment reports are to be produced, and remedial measures and alternative analysis are also to be completed. The remedial measures plan leads to a conditional remedial report, and finally, the implementation of remedial measures. And the request that you have in front of you now is the implementation of those remedial measures, the beginning of that. So with that said, Mr. Newhouse, our compliance engineer, will present the program.
Thank you again, Dr. Johnson, and good morning again. All right, for this initial phase of what I'm calling the first major work that we're doing on a consent decree, it was for some manhole work, 224 manholes, what we call the Western Seal package. As well here this morning, in case there's any additional questions, we've got Justin Reeves from LAN, our design consultants for the program and the plan. We've got Brian Rossman with Adams, a local engineering firm that will be doing our field verification of the work that is being done. And then the contractor whom we're recommending award of this bid for, Quadex, we've got Sean Fuller and Ryan Graham. So just to kind of recap, again, this is our phase one, which was the work that was assessed in 2017. So this was our first year, the first year of our contract with Pipeline Analysis. So this is what he assessed during that year. He did all the manholes that were 10 inches and larger, on all lines 10 inches and larger. And we did the gravity mains in basins 8 and 15. So the result of that was we had 897 manholes that needed some type of remediation. We divided those up, LAN divided those up, helped us, and we've got 224 in what we were calling the Western Seal package. That's this package here today. The next package is the Eastern Seal package, 258 manholes. Those two packages require the same type of remediation. They're basically coating the manholes from top to bottom, doing some structural repair, repairing I&I, replacing working on the bench in the bottom of the manhole. And those were put out, as well as this next one, the repair and replace package, as qualified proposals. So we asked for bids from qualified contractors. We asked them to submit their qualifications, and they were evaluated. So there's 324 manholes in that package, and they require various levels of remediation. And then there's 91 that require minor repairs, lids, inflow dishes, some work at the top of them that we have being done locally. And we are doing some of that work ourselves, but the majority of it is being done with a local contractor. Also, as part of that assessment, we had 379 line segments, or the gravity mains, the pipes. We've got that divided up into 4 packages: the CIPP, or the cure-in-place pipe, where we're just simply lining the pipe and recutting the service taps. We've got almost 36,000 in the pipe burst package. That's where we are replacing the line in the ground without open cut. It's basically a hammer driving the line through the existing line, splitting it open and laying a new pipe in place. We've got 147 point repairs, and then we have just shy of 4,600 lineal feet in the open cut package. And Adams is working locally on that package. Most of these, the first two we've gone to buy board. The CIPP package, I'll be back to see you next meeting, the 10th, with who we're going to recommend for that one. And the other 3 are particularly the pipe burster right on its heels, and then followed by the point repair and the open cut. So again, I mentioned that this work on these 224 manholes, we're going to be sealing the interior. So obviously you've got to clean it, remove any type of roots, and then repair the structure as needed. So the intention here is to restore structural integrity to these manholes and completely seal them off from I&I. The material that we chose to use was a geopolymer material, so that we've got corrosion resistance down to a pH of 1, There's other materials out there, cementitious materials that don't have the same erosion or corrosion resistance that these do and require either an additive that the jury's out or a second step in which you coat the surface of the material. But we chose to go with the geopolymer for its properties and for the fact that we only have to do this with one application. The quality control that we're going to be using to ensure that this work is done properly, again, Adams is going to be doing our field verification of that work, is we're going to be checking the coating thickness. It's got to be a minimal thickness to achieve the structural integrity that we require. And then they're going to be vacuum testing all of the manholes on lines 30 inches in diameter and smaller. The ones larger than that, we're going to be checking the coating thickness. The map of what we're working on, I mentioned the western seal and the eastern seal. Those are generally geographic in nature. So the western seal, as you can see, it's primarily, or it's not primarily, it's in the north west portion of the city. So we've got some there, and you can see primarily the purple basins, 1, 2, 3, some in 4. So you can kind of see where those fall. And obviously then the eastern seal will be the southeastern portion of the city. It will be the rest of them. And before we do the recommendation, I'm going to pause and ask if you have any questions.
So is this an actual employee that's down in the manhole doing this liner on each one of these manholes?
There are people that get down in these manholes and do the work. There will be some work, for instance, if they're sealing the pipes or working on the bench, somebody obviously has to get down in there doing the cleaning. There will be obviously pressure washer and hands-on, so to speak, down in the hole doing that. When they actually get to the coating process, it will be spin cast on most likely, but then somebody will still be down in there to finish it and check the thickness and verify that the coating is on there like it's supposed to be.
So these older manholes, is this like brick?
Well, they're both types. There are quite a few of them. I'm going to say the majority of them are brick, but there are some concrete manholes that need some attention as well.
What's the expected life of this polymer material, Paul?
I am going to have you guys double check me, but I think the design life on this polymer is, I want to say, I think 50 years is right, is what the design is, the expectancy is. And that's what, kind of when you're doing remediation, that's generally what you shoot for, is a 50-year, you know, for the CIPP, the pipe bursting, it's generally a 50-year target on that.
Once this is completed, is there a program to do maintenance, maybe to check and see every once in a while what's going on underground?
And that's what I was talking about in the last presentation, and that we're going to need to transition into a more proactive and routine check of our line. The consent decree says that we are to inspect everything 24 inches and smaller every 7 years, and everything over 24 inches every 10 years. So it's requiring that we actually CCTV those lines, look at those manholes, and yes, like I said, once we get the repair done, we need to make sure it stays done and prevent any major future work if possible.
I do have a question about the bid process. I know that we had 2 bidders, but the disparity between the 2 bids, would you visit that briefly?
The disparity between the 2 bids, in my opinion, if you looked at the way the 2 bids were put together, if you looked at the qualifications of each, if you looked at the work experience for each, it was very obvious who was comfortable with the work based on what their references said, based on how they presented themselves on paper versus the other contractor. So that was a consideration. But then if you look at these numbers, they really are fairly close to what was predicted way back. So it was a confirmation of kind of the gut check from the onset of this. So
Well, Paul, I've gained a whole new understanding for manholes. But the thing that I noticed in our material was the large difference between mobilization, because one was at 60,000 something and the other one was at 600,000. That's huge, and I understand that's how they get into the site. So can you explain that disparity in those two figures?
Now, that is a question that the 600,000 in our opinion was very, very high. And we looked at those and we did the math and we checked them. So, well, maybe there was a math error here, but based on what was written down, there wasn't.
Or could it have been for all the manholes as opposed to this 200?
It could have been, that, I don't think so, because they had the quantity on the bid sheet was clear, what we were bidding and what we were doing. So, but we played devil's advocate and they said, well, if we throw that out, there's still a huge difference.
Yeah.
And then, again, this is why we did the qualified, so we could look at, who is going to do the best job for the city of Tyler. And it's obviously one that's done thousands of these and obviously has the experience doing these, so.
Dr. Ford?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, if I can interject just a little bit. I really think the contractor that had the $600,000 mobilization it was a bust. I think it was an error in his estimate. If you take that and put it in line with the other bid, they'd be very close together, of course. So I really think the contractor just kind of messed up on his bid and he put extra zero on there that he shouldn't have.
Dr. Forbes?
I think that's the bottom line.
For the record, would you state your name?
Jim Forbes, the pipeline analysis.
Thank you.
Well, that was the only thing I noticed, the huge disparity in, yeah.
But even at that, you're talking a $400,000 difference in the bids. You knocked it down from 1.9 to 1.3 if you, like I said, if you threw that completely out.
Okay.
And the other thing, the contingency, so we could end up not spending the contingency.
That's what that is there for. If there is a additional work, or maybe the manhole, these were inspected in 2017, maybe there's been some additional deterioration that requires a little bit more, or wait a minute, maybe we just need to replace this manhole. It would be more cost effective to do that.
So we won't go over it though?
No, that is not at all.
And how will we monitor it?
They are going to be turning in their costs. We've got Adams in the field doing field verification. Obviously, I'm going to be looking at the numbers like I am now, so it's just a matter of asking questions. If we start to see something slip, keeping up with the schedule, it's just a matter of management and keeping on top of it.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve M3.
Second.
Got a motion by Sellers and a second by Setta. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Paul. Good morning, Davis.
Good morning. The next item in 4 is a request of the City Council to authorize the City Manager to apply for, and if awarded, accept a new FAA grant. We're estimating the total being about $855,000. This represents 90%, what we anticipate 90% of the total cost to do 2 projects that were really slated for this summer and this fiscal year. The first project under the grant program would be the airport master plan update. Since we've opened the runway, the new runway, our fleet mix has changed quite a bit. And of course, with the next item, we'll understand even more how that fleet mix, aircraft fleet mix, has really changed, I think, a lot of what the airport does. So that on top of the fact that the airport really should look at updating its master plan every 10 to 15 years, gives the public an opportunity to understand how the airport works, the inventory there, and also for the city and the region to plan for future growth of the airport. In fact, a lot of the projects that you've seen on the airport today are a result of doing good master plans in the past with the terminal building, this runway. So our recommendation with this grant program would be to begin that process again. Also too, with some of our security fencing that we watch, we have several of the electronic gates, and we're seeing a need for added surveillance and really updating of those gates so we can centralize control of those. So that with this grant, we would also propose beginning the design, and having the design in place then really puts us in a good position next year for grants to construct it. So with that, we did present this information to the Airport Advisory Board, and they unanimously recommended that we move forward with applying for this grant.
So who writes all these grant requests? Do you do it yourself?
We do it in our office, yes.
Y'all do a magnificent job, no doubt. I move to approve M4.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion by Warren, a second by Sellers. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you.
Dickinson.
Now, we'll apply for that, hopefully then we'll receive it and we'll accept it, and then the contracts will start rolling forward with your review of those contracts. M5, our next item, is a request for the City Council to consider authorizing the City Manager to execute a new commercial airline lease with Frontier Airlines. I know that each of you have heard the news that Frontier Airlines has a strong desire to come to Tyler and begin service July the 2nd. They are really moving forward with a lot of training, moving equipment in. And of course, as a part of that, we want to execute a lease that defines all the parameters of fees and those sort of things. And in your communication, you see that they ask for certain space to rent, and it totals $3,070 per month. But landing fees are also included within our lease that define each landing. They pay 65 cents per 1,000 pounds of aircraft, I guess you could say, each time they land. So all these fees are set out in our ordinances, so they're uniform for any airline or existing airline that would be here now. So also you'll see that there's a security deposit of a 1 month rental for that. What we've anticipated is they fly a schedule starting July the 2nd. It'll be 3 departures a week, direct, nonstop to Denver, and then, of course, return flights. But from what I've heard thus far, bookings are heavy on it. And it's a Airbus A320 aircraft, which is really the largest commercial plane since I've been there that we've seen. So this is a new entry, and that goes back to our fleet mix that I was talking to you about. And I think because of the runway, we see the larger aircraft, and we're seeing that both in the commercial and in the private aviation. Get a lot more calls about it. So with that, again, the Airport Advisory Board reviewed this request and unanimously recommended that we consider approving or authorizing to execute that.
Surely the fruits of your long efforts and the expansion of the airport. With that, any further comments? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to accept M5.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Yeah, I've got a motion by Moore and a second by Seta. Any further comments? Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Dixon. Davis, excuse me. All right, M6, Renisha Hudson.
Mayor Pro Tem, Council, City Manager, good morning. My name is Parker Harrison. Staff is recommending that the City Council authorize the City Manager to execute the agreement with Habitat for Humanity Smith County for the sum of $110,000 to administer the CDBG funded critical home repair program. As you may remember, on January 23rd, 2019, the City Council approved to amend the 2017 CDBG annual action plan and reprogramming of those funds. A portion of those funds were to go to setting up a partnership with Habitat for Humanity to administer the critical home repair program, utilizing $110,000 of that. In 2016, the city council, or I'm sorry, the city's critical home repair program ended due to staffing levels and funding availability. We have since determined that using the subrecipient would allow more resources to that critical home repair program. Habitat for Humanity will be able to utilize CDBG funds and other funding to cover the different costs that may come up from those repairs. We've asked that the repairs are capped at $10,000 per address, utilizing the CDBG funds. And at this time, Habitat has already identified 10 houses that we're working with them to vet those homeowners. The homeowners themselves must be in the low moderate income area or low moderate income bracket, and must need ADA accessibility issues or any kind of safety and health issues that may come about. At this time, again, city staff is recommending city council authorize the city manager to approve this agreement.
Thank you. Any comments? Questions? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve them too.
Second.
Thank you. I've got a motion by Sutcliffe, the second by Sellers. Any further discussion?
I will just say one thing. I think this is a great program. It's a great use of federal money. I mean, it's not city money, but it's a great use of federal money, and I think Habitat will do a great job implementing it. So that's it.
Absolutely. Any further comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Now we're on to B1, board appointments. Counselor, I have a question for you. With the mayor, can I make the mayor's recommendation also too?
Yes.
Okay, great, thank you. We have half-cent Sales Tax Corporation Board of Director appointments to be made today. They'll be for the at-large or chair position, District 1, District 5, and District 6. So for the at-large position, the mayor has asked that we table this until July the 10th. Do we have a nomination for District 1?
Yes, I move to nominate Jeff Bowie to continue on the half-cent sales tax board as my representative.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. Got a motion by Sellers, second by Warren. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. District 5, I nominate Aubrey Sharp to be the District 5 representative. Can I have a motion to approve?
Move.
Okay. Motion by Moore, second by Sellers. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And District 6,
I'd like to table that till the next meeting and make my nomination then.
all right. Thank you. Appreciate your nominations. Appreciate filling the positions on that board. Look forward to it. Now we'll move to the consent agenda.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as written.
So moved.
Okay, I've got a motion by Warren, a second by Moore. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. City Manager.
Yes, sir. Mayor and council, a few items of note that just to share. Union Pacific recently did an inspection on our quiet zone that runs right next to us here, and found 2 driveways that, in this most recent inspection, that they felt were too close to the quiet zone. So we will be working with those property owners to see what we can do about making modifications and changes in order to have that quiet zone restored. But for now, they do blow their horns as they come through those intersections. And so if you've been hearing that or have people report that to you, that is what the current situation is. The Tyler Fire Department met with the Northeast Texas Public Health District, representatives from Smith County, and multiple public service agencies in the community this past Wednesday to update and release this year's heat response plan. As the weather starts to heat up, we want to make sure that our citizens are very well aware of the options that they have in order to be able to stay cool and what we can be able to do to provide assistance to them both through education and as well as different opportunities to make sure that they stay healthy and cool during this summer. And we also always thank our media partners for helping to push those stories out and to get that information out there to the public. We'll be hosting the 6th annual School is Cool event coming up this beginning in August. Parks Department is working with our organizations and our Business Education Council on that one. We're also right now doing school supply lists. LaToya with the Business Education Council will be glad to help kind of pencil you in for different dates to kind of help stack or to pack the backpacks and get those ready for that event. And that's always a big deal that we have that comes up over at Harvey in early August. And then finally, a lot of our kids are headed off on different mission trips, but we also always try to remember that we also have activities that are occurring here in our community, and especially where they come to help out the city. And the native plant garden that we have project over at the Glass Recreation Center, we had volunteers from Christ Episcopal Church work on the garden from June 11th to June 13th to improve the garden and build raised garden beds over there. And then the Glass Recreation Center's after-school program is using that garden to help teach the children there about gardening and where their food comes from. And so it's a great opportunity and project just that brings our local community together with our projects and to enhance our full city. And so with that, turn it back over to you, sir.
Well, thank you, Ed. I've got 2 comments to make about your report. The railroad, as Councilman Moore said, really operates on their own schedule and their own work program. But I have to say, hats off to you for getting them, as they completed their restoration of the railroad tracks, to pick up the debris all across the city. It wasn't just in a particular district. So thank you. That was quite an effort.
We're glad to serve.
And then I just want to recognize a major sponsor for the School is Cool, the backpack program. The University of Texas at Tyler, i.e. Dr. Tidwell, has agreed to be the sole sponsor of backpacks for the School is Cool program. So it's over 2,000 backpacks, which is absolutely phenomenal. So, wow, what a great community partner that is. And before I entertain a motion to adjourn, I just simply want to make one comment. This is Councilman Moore's last City Council meeting, potentially, unless he chooses to be here on July the 10th. And, so with that, Councilman Moore, we certainly treasure and appreciate your service, your years of service to the citizens and also to this council.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
Oh, I told him this morning, I've gained a whole new appreciation for him over these years. It's kind of like those of us who are older remember the old E.F. Hutton saying that if whatever they say, you listen carefully. And I found that out about Ed. He's just been an inspiration to me and always kept the council calm and really thought deep about the things that he was going to vote on. And I appreciated that so much from him. And I hope you're still around to use that Bible for 30 more years, sir.
So are you going to be here on the 10th or not?
No.
I will say this. We had a going away thing for Ed a little while back, and we bought Ed this tree, and it's going to be planted at Gasaway Park, and it's going to be known as the Ed Moore tree. So we're excited about that for Ed's family and grandkids for years to come, that they can go and sit under the tree, and Ed can go read his Bible under the tree. So we appreciate your friendship, and we'll miss you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wish I'd had more time to spend with you. But in the short period, I've enjoyed it. I'm glad we've made a connection, a history of family and friends, and that's fantastic. Appreciate your service very much.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, and with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I've cut off the honor, the guest of honor here. Go ahead, Councilman.
I guess I'd like to say this has been an exciting experience for me for the past 6 years. I've met a lot of new people, especially people that work with and for the city, a lot of the city staff. But I'm most appreciative of the people that I've worked here on this council. We've been like one big happy family for the most part, and I've learned a lot. I was able to do some things in the district that needs to be done, but let me say this, the work is never completed. There's a lot to be done in the district, within the city. I applaud the city manager for your efforts. I think I told him a while ago that he's user-friendly. He's a good guy, user guy that we can work with. And I know that the mayor's not here, but Mr. Mayor, I certainly appreciate your leadership as being the mayor for the city of Tyler for the past 5 years. The mayor and I have known each other for quite some time, and he's the same every day, and I appreciate him. I appreciate the citizens of Tyler, Texas. I've had a lot of phone calls about we need to do this and what we can do, and I appreciate your comments, good or bad, and that goes with the territory. And I just want to say that it's been something that I realized a long time ago that I wanted to do, and that is be a part of the city. And I started out by being a volunteer for 14 years. And I think being a volunteer helped me to sit at this particular seat and know what the people like and suggest. So it's going to be rough for me to get up in the morning and decide what am I going to do for the city or with the city, but I'll overcome that. But just to all the people that I've had an opportunity to work with, I certainly appreciate you. To the citizens of Tyler that live in District 3, I certainly appreciate them also. I'm not going away. I still live in the district. I'll still be around. I'll probably volunteer for something else because I just can't go home and sit down and do anything. But anyway, hats off to everybody that's here. And just one more thing, Counselor, I certainly appreciate you. We met each other probably, I won't say maybe 30 years ago, and I certainly appreciate your efforts in helping me with the things that I needed as far as being a council. And I would just like to say to my colleagues on this here, I have a slogan that says that it's not all about me, it's about the city. You were elected out of a district, but you represent the city of Tyler. So with that said, God bless you. Thank you very much.
Well said, Councilman. Thank you. All right, now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.